From Provo, Utah, this is the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast with your hosts, Joseph DeGolier and Caleb Schweiss. This is Ultima Final Fantasy.
Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate in Final Fantasy podcast. I am your host, Caleb.
I'm your other host, Joe.
And today we are finally done with the main series. I know we said that. I think I've said that like 4 times in the last little while. But for real this time.
I mean, technically we were done with the main series 3 weeks ago.
True. But we are going to do our retrospective of the series as a whole today. We're gonna go through each game, discuss the things that we loved the most. We got like the best bosses, the best cutscenes, the best yada yada, and a special treat courtesy of my disgusting amount of gameplay. We came up with some interesting statistics on, you know, various elements of how much time I took in the series, how many days, how many waking days.
It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, it's a lot of my life that's gone into this series. So
I do want to say something. We started out this podcast with the goal to beat all the Final Fantasy games.
Yes.
And, you know, that really meant the main series, but we're, of course, going to continue on.
Oh, yeah.
But as an ender to Season 1, I just want to thank everybody who stuck with us for these 88 episodes of us going through from Final Fantasy 1 through 14. Thank all you guys for joining us in this journey. I hope many of you guys have discovered new Final Fantasy games along the way as well. Did you ever think there would be a day in which you had completed all the Final Fantasy games? All the real Final Fantasy games?
Yes and no. I mean, I have always had the goal of playing as many of them as I could. Ever since I first played 7, I was like, dude, this is awesome. You know, I want to play all of these games. And then I got 10, and then I got 12 on release, and I just played the hell out of them. And part of me always wanted to, but I don't know. I kind of needed this sort of kick in the pants to actually get it going. And I mean, as we said before, it originated as just you and I both being really interested in the series for a lot of years, and a lot of these games were unexplored for us, and so we were just playing the games. And then, of course, you were really into pod stuff, so we did that instead. But I don't know, so it's kind of a yes and no. Yes, I would have played all the games, in my opinion, that were considered the ones you needed to play, which weren't the onlines, especially 11. Like 14, I was willing to play since day one, but 11, I don't know. I don't think I would have played it. So I don't know. What about you? How do you feel about that?
Well, there were many times that I wanted to play through all the main series, but I knew that like I didn't have enough self-motivation to be able to do it on my own.
Oh, okay.
So although I did try playing FF1 and I beat it in a week with the 9-hour time that I had, I wanted to beat each Final Fantasy in like a week.
Yeah.
Each,
oh,
which of
sick.
course now we look at these numbers that we're going to bring up later on, and we're going to see that would have been impossible, especially with the online ones. But, you know, no one ever wanted to do it with me until you came along.
And so I'm like your gym buddy almost for the series. Like,
almost, yeah. I mean, it took that and a podcast and audience
True.
to push the go ahead and beat all the games in a row. Not even Void, who we try to have on this episode, but scheduling conflicts. Not even Void could make it through 11. And
yeah, he was not a fan of 11, and you know, I guess I get why, especially if you're going in it alone. But thankfully, we have this awesome community that we had at least 3 or 4 people that were willing to play 11 with us on a regular basis, and you guys became our FF buddies then too. So it's been quite the journey.
It has been an incredible journey, as it were. Where are you in Interlude right now, Schweiss?
I am just barely outside of the cave area in the beginning. There's like this dungeon that you have to fight the demon wall in. I just barely got through there. That's the underground dwarf area, which was kind of cool. A nice callback and the music is very similar in that area.
I think I just beat the Demon Wall, so I must be like right where you're at.
Yeah, I'm just past Demon Wall. I'm playing as Edge in his cave area, but that's shortly after Demon Wall. Demon Wall was a bastard, as always, in this. And I ran into some problems with this game, this interlude, because the game doesn't really give you that many Phoenix Downs, and I was like, well, I'm in the 30s. I probably don't need to go try to find a shop to buy items, because it's like, what, a 3-hour game?
Right.
So I was like, screw that. It's just going to be like a tutorial, a lead into the after years. So I'm just going through, just trucking along, and then I get to these fucking door enemies. These fuckers.
Oh yeah.
They keep doing this target move, and then they do a move called Ninth Dimension, and it just obliterates.
They're bad.
And they had like a hard on, and this is going to sound really wrong, for the white mage, the little girl. What is it, Palom or Porum?
I can't remember who's what.
Yeah, it's been a while, but anyway, one of those two. I think it's Porum. I don't know, they both sound interchangeable.
They're always together.
Yeah, anyway, they kept killing the white mage, so I didn't have the spell raise anymore. And that was a big fucking problem, because I'm in this dungeon, I saved, the Porum is dead, and I'm just trapped. And I just kept going to the next Demon Wall. The Demon Wall will take out the black mage, obliterate him, and he was the only one that could one-shot these doors. Not Demon Wall, sorry, door. And it was just a bitch. And I was like, fuck, dude, I'm stuck in this little DLC bullshit. And then I was like, oh, maybe a tent will res him from unconsciousness, because, that makes sense to me. Use a tent, nothing. And then I tried a couple more times. I got like 5 game overs in a row. And I'm like, okay, maybe the cottage, I don't know. And then I used the cottage, and it brought her back to life. Thank God. So after that, I was able to pretty much rock everything. The only thing that gave me trouble was Demon Wall, because I went into him with little to no mana the first time. And then I also had, I tried the Twin Cast ability, because as you remember from 4, Twin Cast is like awesome. I do Twin Cast, they do Comet, it does like 200 damage. And it took like a minute. So I was just screwed, like right off the bat, because of this fucking move.
Yeah.
And then I had to fight him another time.
See, I just spammed, one of them has black magic, either Palom or Porum.
Yeah.
I think it's Porum. And he, that's what I've been using, like against the doors.
He's sick,
against
dude.
the against the Demon Wall.
This
everything.
is the end.
Yep.
No, it's a good one though. His black magic is sick. I was doing like 4,000, 6,000 damage.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I berserk Sid and then just get him to do black magic, and it rocks. But
yeah.
I don't know. So we're about the same spot then. I mean, we're halfway done with this.
We should have it done by next week. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't.
I didn't play that much because I wanted you to catch up, and I had to play Diablo for Nude Clan, so that's what I've been playing this week for the most part.
Yes.
So that's where we're at right now, and we're gonna kind of skip news this week. Although I do want to let you guys know that Explorers is coming out in a few days.
Yes, it is. I got onto their website. I was thinking about getting the special edition, and I signed up on the waiting list, I guess, to order it from Square Enix. So
cool.
Yeah, I think it was like $60 or $70. Had a bunch of stuff in it, so as long as I don't have like weird tarot cards, however the fuck you pronounce it.
Tarot cards.
Like in the what is it? The one that just barely came out, Type 0.
Type 0, yeah.
Those are kind of weird. I mean, they're cool, and I guess that's what you use in the game to summon. But I don't know. It's just odd. Like, I'd rather have something.
Does it come with like an art book or anything like that?
It did. It came with an art book as well. So
okay.
And then a little manga comic, which not into that. But
they know their audience, though.
It's true, and
it's just me and you.
Yeah, we're the two one-offs that don't like the manga stuff.
I guess not. Well, Schweiss, I guess we should probably talk about the series as a whole.
All right, I think we can get into that.
So I think we should go through each of the games one by one and kind of just give our abbreviated thoughts on each game. What do you think?
I think I could go with that.
Okay. Final Fantasy 1. What does Final Fantasy 1 mean to you?
Lots of pain. Pretty fun battle system. I mean, it's really it's the origins of it all, so they don't have quite as much fine-tuning as they could.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think the battle system in it is quite balanced, quite well done. I mean, that aspect of the game is solid. The storytelling, it's a little iffy. The time plot always pisses me off because it's just too much. And I don't know. I liked the game. I think it's still a good game to play. I mean, the difficulty on the version I played especially was just absurd because...
Well, even your version wasn't the NES version.
Yeah, that's true. My version was not the NES version. And the big thing I had is I was listening to this fuck here about what party to play, because you're like, oh, I just do 2 warriors and 2
red mage.
2 red mage. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing damage. But the problem with that is I run into the point of the game where I'm getting final dungeon area around there, and I have Cure as my spell. That's the one spell I have. There's no Phoenix Downs in Final Fantasy 1, so I can't get back to life without going back to town. And
it was rough.
It was brutal. I mean, having Cure 1 as my ultimate spell and a warrior, the red mage had it. And actually, I might have gotten life at some point with the red mage. I'm kind of recalling that. Do you? If I did, I could only use it like once because the mana would just get wrecked.
Right.
And we had our my buddy Christian, who was playing the game around the same time as us. He was interested in going through the whole series.
Right.
Eventually fell off later, but he was playing one, and he did a completely diverse party. He did warrior, monk, black mage, and white mage. And it was a little rough in the beginning, he said, but by the end, like, his white mage was just untouchable. Black mage was doing sick damage, more than the warrior. The monk was, like, repulsingly powerful. So, I don't know. Like, I guess for a speedrun purposes, the party I chose would be the best one, but it made it a rough ride.
See, I think with FF1, I have in the past tried to have an evenly placed game, so I would do warrior, black mage, white mage, and then thief usually, which is a mistake.
Yes. Until later, he gets pretty beefy, but so does everybody else.
That requires so much time and attention to leveling, and I just don't want to deal with that. So having the 2 warriors and the 2 red mages, especially in the Dawn of Souls version, which is way more forgiving than either the PlayStation version or the NES version, that is kind of the way to go if you want a fast game and if you want to kick ass. But I'm sorry that you had so much problems on the PlayStation version. I didn't expect it, considering the only version I've ever played thoroughly. I mean, I've started games on the other versions, but the only one that I've ever played is Dawn of Souls.
Yeah, I also thought it was fucked up that the potions, you could only have like 99 potions, and they don't give you a fucking thing back. Like, I'm talking, I've got like 1,800 life, and they give me 10, or they give me 40 to 50. What the fuck, man? There's no like regulation on the potion industry in this game. Like, they don't have like, okay, potions have to give you this much, and that's it. They give you a randomly generated amount between this number and this fucking number, and I'm like, I'm drinking these things to the point where my characters are probably drunk. Like, I'm drowning their cells with all the liquid I'm pounding into their poor fucking mouths. And like, I'm just killing them. Like, that's probably why it was hard, is because they were like inebriated as they're going through this dungeon. But so some of the scaling things were problematic when it comes to that. And I don't know, though. It was still fun. I still had fun playing the first game, even though it was brutal.
All right. I agree that the first game is fun. I mean, I played a completely different version than you, so our experiences are totally different. In fact, the Dawn of Souls version is very... I guess it's probably it's easier on the player. I was able to just like kick ass and go straight through the game.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like, well, I mean, there's plenty of things I like better in the other Final Fantasy games, but something I really don't like with FF1 was the exploration and the lack of story. Now, I know it was the first one, and so it's kind of like...
Yeah, it's their first effort.
It's a first effort sort of thing, so... The story being so insanely thin bugged me, and the fact that I had no idea where I was going.
Yeah, the game just basically tosses you out. I mean, everyone has
some people like that, though, so I understand if that's like a thing where you're like, well, I want to play this game for 50 hours and explore the shit out of it. It's
yeah,
like, oh,
I can see that being...
That's your thing.
I can see that being appealing in some ways, but it almost carried over the archaic, old school RPGs, like when we look at Ultima as a series, where you've got like the command prompts, or like whenever somebody says something, you write that shit down in a little book. Because you remember Matoya's cave, she's like, oh, I'm missing my eye. And then the prince is like, oh, our prince needs a potion to wake him up. So you're like, oh, okay, this guy needs this. This guy needs this. And that's what I ended up doing. I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be here, so I have to go into the...
Yeah, I followed again.
The dungeon thing. And, that's I don't know. It's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's like, it's almost...
It's cool if you didn't have
anything to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And it's just really separated from the storytelling of it for the most part. Like, it's not like it feels like a disconnected quest to go grab some of these things.
I think within the realm of like all RPGs, I mean, the first round of RPGs is just regular tabletop Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Second realm of RPGs, or like second iteration of RPGs, is the computer RPGs with the text box like Ultima and stuff like that. And then this is third generation RPG with Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it's going to have a lot of those elements where it's like, you got to pay attention.
Well, I'd even put Diablo. I know we're playing that for our other show. I'd put Diablo as a tabletop RPG. So, I mean, it's still relevant now.
It has a lot of that stuff in it.
I think that is like D&D 3D is really what Diablo 1 is. And these ones...
It's an action game, so it's different. It's not
quicker,
turn-based.
Yeah.
They wanted to make it turn-based, which
true,
we'll talk about later.
But I think you got a good point there with the different generations, so to speak, and it's, I don't know, it was their first foray into ripping off Dragon Quest. So.
Yeah. A lot of people still play FF1 like crazy fans.
Oh yeah,
though.
A lot of people really love it, and I think it's the nostalgia and just how impressive it is for the day.
Well, the replay factor of being able to just try different parties, I think, is like the thing.
Yeah, that's a big element of the gameplay. I mean, if you can go through it and have a totally different experience X number of times, I can see it being worthwhile to go through that many times.
Yeah. Okay. FF2. This of course saw that wonderful battle system, or I guess leveling up system, which you had to use different. So in other words, if you wanted to build up your strength, you had to hit things over and over again. And so with older versions of the game, now we never played the iOS version or anything like that, which they fixed it, but you could just select the attack and be able to build up your stuff.
Right. So the idea is to have the person you're least interested in attacking in the fourth slot, and you would just select the attack for the first three, and then back up.
I would do it one character at a time. I press X0, 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 X0. And they would just build up their strength by one every time.
Yeah, I did all three, and then I just... And then...
it's pretty sick. It can screw you over, though, if you decide to work on that before you're working on health.
Yeah, Joe found that out the hard way, because the same thing goes. Now, this is a genius system, I think. It was just poorly implemented. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. It's just like in the Elder Scroll games. You use something, you do something more, you get better at it. If I punch a punching bag 1,000,000 times, I'm going to be better at it than I would have the first couple times. More effective, better approach, better attacks.
Right.
It works, but it fails in a lot of ways, and I don't know, the spamming is really the big one. And the problem Joe ran into, and I didn't really run into because I saw you was part of it. Because what he did is he upped his attack for like 30 minutes straight. Just like in one battle, he's like, oh yeah, this is hot. My attack's going to be brutal.
Yeah,
and it was.
My thumb was sore, by the way.
And it was brutal. But then when you want to upgrade your health, it basically, when you lose a certain percentage of your health...
You got to get down to like 10% health or less. And then it'll like...
You'll up your overall health, your overall vitality.
Which is such a weird thing.
It's weird, but it does kind of make sense, because if you break a bone,
building up a callus.
Yeah, it's like building up a callus, or when you break your bone, when it fuses back together, it's stronger than it was before it got broken. So it does make sense, but the problem with your method is you guys were so powerful, when you went to hit yourself, you would just kill yourself. And you don't gain the health boost when you just kill yourself. So you're just KOing the fuck out of your party, and it's brutal. Now, that broken leveling... there were parts where we'd get to a certain part of the story and it would start getting tough, and we're like, okay, I got to go out and grind. Mm-hmm. And this game's version of grind is hitting yourself and then going through and upgrading your attack by backing out.
I would wonder, like, I wouldn't want to do it because I kind of like the cheapness of cheating the battle system, but I wonder how difficult that game is.
The iOS version, Christian said,
iOS version
plays just like a normal Final Fantasy almost. So it's they balanced it a lot more.
So they balanced it even, okay.
Yeah, he didn't have a problem playing it, which I was surprised because I knew, I'm like, if they fix this thing, it's fucking game over, man. No one's going to be able to beat this fucking thing.
It's a tough game on top of that, though.
Yeah,
like,
it
you
is.
can cheat the shit out of it, but it's still a rough game.
It is,
I remember things like, we complained about cockatrices in the first 2 Final Fantasy games, like turning you to stone.
Oh, yeah,
I remember that thing, like, that was an epidemic in Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like, that's probably why the towns are so sparsely populated. Everyone's a fucking statue outside.
And I'd have to say that last dungeon, which was really cool looking on the PlayStation, that was a rough dungeon. Like, I saved every 2 feet in that thing.
Yeah. In 2, we have the save state kind of things.
Yeah.
We can save wherever we want. But
awesome. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful.
The memo saves or the quick
oh
saves
god,
or
yeah, memo
called.
save for the win, dude. Mm-hmm. But another thing I wanted to point out is when you got to those final dungeons, like the Jade Passage, that's when the leveling kind of started to fix itself almost. Like, it made sense. Like, I was able to gain health because I had enough, and they would hit me.
The game caught up with you?
Yeah, the game kind of caught up with me to where I was actually leveling up normally, like in a natural sense, because I was getting hit for enough that didn't just fucking kill me like it would have earlier, but instead now is relative to my overall health, and it became pretty awesome. But yeah, it got tough. And one more thing we got to mention in 2, which we raged about before, is the inn thing. You remember that shit? The inn guy, the innkeep is a sick fuck. So when you go to an inn to go, take a nice night's rest, get your health up, repair your broken, shattered body from the hellish enemies roaming the plains.
Is this guy going to cause me problems? Better charge him more.
Yeah, the innkeep charges you based on how much you're going to heal up. Like, I remember you mentioning something about like, oh, that guy's going to bleed all over the sheets. We're going to have to charge him an extra premium to replace the sheets. And they would like bankrupt you. Like this is the corporate, the evil world that some of our politicians talk about all the time is Final Fantasy 2 innkeeps. Those are the 1%. They're the ones we need to go after. And it's just brutal. But, and like there were honestly times where I would have to go just fight to get money
Welcome
to go.
to La Quinta. Do you have any bodily injuries?
Yeah. Like it was
$40 a night went to
like $2,000. Yeah. It was wrong, dude. It was so brutal. It's like, this is when I needed the most.
That was the worst part of FF2.
Fucking scale.
The leveling, as broken as it is, that is the worst part. And honestly, like FF2 is usually, to people who know the series, that's usually the one that's listed as the worst game.
Yeah, it is.
And we put it pretty low, but we didn't put it as the worst game.
No, the story was definitely a step above the first one, and that's why
there was a story in FF2. It was kind
and I was emotionally attached.
There was a lot of Emperor moving around.
Yes.
A lot of Emperor slaughtering, but otherwise...
strike me down.
Otherwise, it was like, it was legit.
No, yeah, and I was connected to Yosef, and his sacrifice was actually meaningful, whereas stuff in 1, not very much meaning behind the events. Not that that's bad, it's just you can tell they advanced as far as a storytelling series.
And then FF3, of course, the one that we played on the DS. Well, I played on the DS, you played on your phone, right?
My Kindle.
Right. Oh, your Kindle, okay. You cheater. Fuck.
I don't know what you're talking about. But if you listen to that episode, we mention it like 7 times due to editing. Every time I listen to that thing, I'm like, geez.
It's
fucking beating a dead horse.
Sometimes I still make mistakes in editing.
Oh, I know. The
UFF Podcast Awards.
You put the wrong song in there?
Wrong song.
Yeah. That's probably why you lost, you fuck. Okay, this was last year. Actually, no, it was this year.
No, it wasn't. It was still this year.
But it wasn't nominated.
Well, the impression was nominated differently, but
True.
whatever. Anyway, FF3, what, like the battle system, pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like everything good about the FF1 battle system, only they added
job classes.
which was quite awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, with FF3, you could change your character's job class to any class you wanted, and certain parts of the game got easier when you did certain classes. So, like, there's one part where it becomes all dragon overrun, and you changed your class to the the Dragoon.
Dragoon, yeah.
And then there was a time where you changed to the guy who's like an elemental swordsman. What was that one?
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
It's now
dude.
been a while.
It's been over a year, but anyway, there were parts of the game where you actually had a strategy and you could change your party's layout and you would have a little bit easier of a time. But the big problem with the job system in this game is the amount of battles you have to go through for the job transition to go through completely.
Yeah,
now,
which is a ridiculous thing.
Yeah, like when I want to get when I want to change someone's class, we're talking 8 or 9 turns for a couple of them, and that's like ridiculous, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking 8 or 9 battles to full completion, and they're just a gimp the whole time.
It was up to 10 battles per guy, depending on like how well adjusted they were with their certain job.
Yeah, but admittedly, it was the first game that you could break the damage limit, I think. I broke the damage limit multiple times. It does only give you the 4 9s, but the damage, if you look at their HP for the enemy, certain ones, if you do the one skill, you can check it out, it breaks damage limit. So my guys are breaking damage limit in the 60s.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Now, we never did get to play the original version of FF3. I've heard that there's many differences between that and the DS version. Although I do say that FF3 on the DS, I think it's worth others to play. I mean, do you...
it was...
Do you wish that we could have played the other versions?
Oh, the original?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You bet your ass I do. I mean, the art design in this one kind of bugged me. There were like these fat, pot-bellied little kids, and I always go off on that, and I won't do too much on it now, but I feel like it loses some of its originality when they change the art style.
And it feels really out of place if you're trying to play them all in a row, and then FF3 is like...
It's like way better in a lot of ways. Not necessarily stylistically better, but...
Out of the first 3 games, I think FF3 has the best battle system.
Yeah.
Even though it is kind of clunky in comparison to what FF5 becomes. But FF3 also had a really thin story.
Yeah, it wasn't that intense either. It was that Ingus guy. That's the guy I'm trying to think of. Sometimes when I would change his class, it would be 10 turns, like every time. And, you know, I get it when it's going into a job that you're not familiar with. But when I'm going back into the Viking or the tank for him, he's been doing that job for the last 30 plus levels. He knows the job. Why is it taking him 9 turns to get back into that fucking job? Yeah. Like, you know this stuff.
It was also kind of a difficult game, especially that last Crystal Tower up and through. I think as far as final dungeons are concerned, I think FF3 may have the hardest final dungeon.
In the series?
In the series.
Maybe.
I mean, for someone who can't, like, close out of the game real quick with their Kindle and restart bosses fights, you do have to have, like, I think there's 5 bosses in a row.
Yeah, there are. I only died twice, though.
After a giant dungeon, yes. Dungeon.
But be appreciative that
which is right after another gigantic dungeon.
Be appreciative that you can save in between the first gigantic dungeon and the second gigantic dungeon, though. If you couldn't, then it'd be even more fucked.
Yeah. That was rough.
No, it was a tougher final boss, but the music in the final area, this is when the music in the series really started picking up for me.
Yeah, well, the first, like, 5 games, they reuse a lot of the tracks from FF1.
They do, yeah.
But yeah, FF3 had some unique stuff.
Like the final dungeon area was awesome to me. And it was kind of cool that they almost toyed with the idea of playing as Warriors of Darkness. And...
yeah,
and you see the Warriors of Darkness, like you talk to them for a second, and I thought that was a really cool parallel, like the yin and yang.
They never brought it later on in the series.
Not yet, no. I think it'd be fucking awesome if they just did like 16 as like the Warriors of Darkness, and like, although they're kind of moving a little bit away from the Uber Crystal mode.
Oh, they've been moving away from that for forever.
Well, then we run into
the
stuff
onlines have it a little bit, and 12, you know, with its Nethicite has it, I guess.
It's not quite the same though.
No, it's not.
But yeah, that was a big thing that we didn't mention in the first too that carries on, full force is the crystal lore, which is, I don't know, I think it's appreciated, but it's nice to get a change later on.
So FF4, a new system, the Super NES.
Yes.
First off, the battle system with 5 people. You can't choose your classes, unfortunately. Like, you don't have the job switching system like you did before, but considering like there's always that 5th slot is being filled up by a new person every time, or every few hours in the game. And, just, it kind of, FF4 is kind of the one gameplay wise and, story wise that one really showed us what the future of Final Fantasy is going to be.
I think when I started playing 4, I was like, this is Final Fantasy. The first 3 were like skirting the line between JRPG and Final Fantasy, and 4 was where it really started to puncture through, and it felt like the games that I know and love.
Yeah, of course, this was the sequel to FF1 to people in the States for many years.
Yeah, so it was epic. Like, the second one is like a billion times better, And,
there was no build up.
No, not at all. You didn't get the build up experience. But one of the cool things in 4, I was attached to the job system, I will say, from 3. I was like, oh, fuck, 4, it goes away. I'm not really feeling
it's still
that.
A job system.
Right, but it's just permanent.
You can't move the jobs around.
Right, but when I played 4, I didn't really have a problem with that. I felt like it was well balanced. It was a lot of fun,
Till the moon, but yeah.
Yeah, the moon was not balanced at all. But, one other thing that I had in 4, it was the weirdest thing, and it might just be the PlayStation port, but my inventory would just get like fucked up. Do you remember that? Where you would like have items and you buy more potions, but it wouldn't stack on the other potions. And I'm like, what the fuck?
You have to like press order or something like that.
Yeah, I have to go in and organize the potions all into one slot. And that was like, oh my God. Thankfully, I could get more than, 99, and they had scaling
I think it made it
potions.
a little smoother in the version I played, which was the complete edition, which is the edition that I tell everyone to play.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah.
That's the version, like, if you have a PSP, please get the FF4 complete, because it's still got the 2D stuff in it, so it's still FF4.
Yes.
But then it also, like, speeds up the battle system. The animations are really smooth.
They're really good.
It's a wonderful, wonderful version of that game.
No voice acting, so you don't have to worry about the iOS.
There you go. Yeah, man, FF4, that was a step up from those first 3 games.
It was a big step up, I would say. And I mean, I know we bag on the ending to it all the time, but...
But at least it tried.
No, and it had a great story.
The first 3 games, I think they were trying to go for a story-driven game. Of course, FF3 was like the biggest NES game ever, or one of the biggest, because there was not a single bit of space that they did not fill up on the drive.
Damn.
So like they fit as much story as they could with FF3. And with FF4, with I guess the new space on the Super NES, the brand new system, like they really went all out as far as they could.
Yeah.
At the time with the story. And with the battle system, I think it's still a great battle system. I mean, it does get really rough on the moon, but
it does. Yeah, there's a little bit of scaling issues, which I don't know. It's not the worst thing in a game to be difficult.
No, and many of the other Final Fantasies later on have scaling issues as well. I would say FF8.
I don't think you should just be able to plow through the whole thing. Like I can
guess
see
not.
why.
I believe in like a consistent difficulty. So
like a consistent grind almost.
So
like,
FF9, I think to me is about as even as you can get, or FF10's really even too. But I guess FF10 you can fuck yourself over if you go to the wrong side of the level up board.
Yeah, you can. It's doable.
Yeah. So then we were told many, many times
that 5 sucked.
That 5 was like one of the worst Final Fantasy games ever.
Yes.
And
it's down there with 2 most of the time.
Maybe as far as story is concerned, it's not the greatest. I remember like not really caring until like the last 10 hours of the game, like what was going on in the story. But gameplay, Jesus, if there is a Final Fantasy game that is actually like just fun, just plain fun, it is Final Fantasy V.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, they took the awesome job system that we had in Final Fantasy III, and it just exploded into this epic thing. And I mean, you could change your class on the go. You could build up your certain class to get certain abilities. The abilities carried over to other classes, so you can get like the Uber class and just like combine your Giltos with your fucking other abilities. And it was great, and it made grinding a lot of fun because you're like, ooh, and when I get to 100 battles with this this character, I will get something.
That's right.
As you're still leveling up, you can still get some experience for your other stuff, don't you?
I can't remember.
Actually, no, I don't think you do. I don't know, but
you had the first class and you had the secondary class also.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. So you could still be leveling up your original stuff. And I don't know. I thought 5 was fantastic. I mean, I rank it above 4 any day of the week. The final area, especially, like the sacrifice that's made by Galoof is just epic. You know, as he's given his life for his daughter and the party. It's just so intense. Like, that's the most powerful cutscene in the series up to that point.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Now, it does get a little overshadowed, though.
You think so?
Next game on, FF6.
Oh, yeah.
I think, like, FF4 told us what just a Final Fantasy, like, that's kind of like, as far as story in Final Fantasy is concerned, like, that's the plane. FF4 is the plane. And FF6 just went up, like, went up into the clouds with what FF6 did as far as story, and I'd say a very good battle system along with it. FF6's story, I can't believe, like, I've heard Chrono Trigger has a very comparable good story with it, but, like, do you think that there could be a more touching, more dark, more interesting, more lore-filled, but yet easily understandable, character-driven story in any 2D game?
Not as far as I played. I mean, FF6 was phenomenal. You had an excellent battle system. It just keeps on improving on everything before it. You've got fun characters. You've got a really dark scenario that you're going through. I mean, this guy's just killing people.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun moves. I mean, you had the time move with Cyan where you just let it chill and you get more damage.
Each guy, it's kind of like FF4 in that way where each guy is unique.
Yeah.
But it, like, took it to the next level.
Yeah, it's like, that's limit breaks to me is what Final Fantasy VI did. And I mean, the chainsaw move, holy shit, with Edgar, that thing's awesome. Not only does it do a lot of damage, but he puts on a little mask like every 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 times. Yeah. It's like Jason. It's just fucking awesome.
So, like, the gameplay, amazingly fun. Not as good a gameplay as I say FF5 is, I mean, in comparison, but if you're comparing the Super NES games against each other. But it's pretty close.
Yeah, and I really...
for what it is.
Yeah, and in 6, one thing that I really loved about Final Fantasy VI with the battle system was the learning spells with having the summons equipped. I thought that was really cool, that was the way that you gained magic, because magic was lost in this world. You know, when they find out someone has magical abilities, they're like, oh, that's freakish, you know? We haven't had that forever since the Magi Wars of blah, 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 probably 1,000 years ago, judging by Final Fantasy's previous.
It is.
Yeah.
It was 1,000 years ago. War of the Magi. Yeah.
War of the Magi. But, you know, and it's this lost art, so it makes sense that the Espers are the ones that give you the magical abilities, because they are magical creatures by nature. And I thought that was fucking awesome that I could get everyone to have the same spells and still have the separate abilities. So it's like you almost even some of those crappier characters out by giving them Ultima, for example, like you did. You had an easy time going through the final dungeon because you chose to do the spell.
You get Ultima and you can break the game.
Well, you get what is it? Death and
Vanish Doom.
That breaks the game literally sometimes. But you know, and it's weird because 6 is probably the worst programmed game in the series. Like, honestly, they threw that shit together.
It's got the most glitches.
Yeah, it's glitched as fuck.
I remember one glitch in which you had to walk onto a certain tile in town that you should normally walk on, but I walked around it so a cutscene didn't go off. And I was freaking out as like, what did I miss? And then I found out in some forum in the deep internet where some guy was like, yeah, you got to walk on the path.
Oh, that's really weird.
Well, I just kind of fucked myself. And then I walked on the path and the cutscene started. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's odd. And then, I mean, there's some great things in the game, like the offering item where you get like the times 2, you double down on your hits or something like that. And then there is the Mog charm, Moogle charm.
Yeah, Moogle charm, yeah.
Moogle charm was awesome too. I mean, you could just go up the tower of the
no
Magi.
Encounters, yeah, that's
no
right.
encounter the whole way up.
Oh, Life 3, like the one where you cast.
Oh yeah, and it brings you back to
yeah.
life. Oh, dude, Life 3 is a fucking lifesaver.
That's the only way you can really beat the Magi thing.
Yeah, because
I think there was like one other way to beat it, but I couldn't remember what it was.
Because it will do Ultima or something, some other massive spell at the end. It'll just kill everybody. And
the dinosaur forest, the best place to level up ever.
Oh yeah. Oh, and get the XP egg in the.
That's right.
The little dungeon thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, FF6, it's just great. And the story, I got to say once again, the story is just amazing.
Yeah, it's I mean, there is still a theme of the bad guy is just some crazy dude, and this is an area where I fault the first 6 games in, where they're just pure insane. There's no real reason why they're crazy.
Well, some of the games like FF4 had like the bad guyception.
Yeah, there's a few times where that happened as well, but I don't know. This one was just different. I mean, it is similar in a lot of ways, but I mean, when we have Kefka.
So despite its simplistic bad guy, I'd say that story-wise, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And our first voice acted line, right? Not actually voice acted, but you know.
Close enough. But yeah, no, he was fucked up when we actually got to see
the music of FF6, dude.
Yeah, the Terra's theme is probably my favorite track in the whole series. So
like the FF 1 through 5 stayed with that crystal stuff, and it stayed a lot of the times. I mean, it did have unique tracks, FF5 especially. Did have unique music tracks from Nobuo Uematsu. But FF6, I mean, it had music that was just particular for the game. Like the entire game had a musical feel about it, and it was unique compared to the first 5 games. And I gotta think, to like a North American audience, once again, this was the 3rd game in the series. Like went from FF1 to FF4, which is a huge jump, then FF4 to FF6, which is a gigantic jump. I mean, FF5 to FF6 is a huge jump anyway, but like.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
And, I mean, the music is phenomenal. And the intro cutscene with the Terra theme playing and like the dudes walking through the snow, like fucking A, that looks amazing.
Oh, yeah, and it's amazing looking game for a Super NES game. It's got to be like one of the best, if not the best looking Super NES game.
Yeah, they pushed that shit to the limit.
Yeah, they're using that Mode 7 3D stuff.
It's insane, man. That was the peak. But this era.
Speaking of 3D, though.
We're gonna get into
Square
7?
Enix decided to put like over $100 million into a new system that was going to be it was going to be the N64, but the game got too big.
Yeah, the logistics of putting it on cartridges was just not financially feasible.
And so we move on to
The Great Betrayal.
FF7.
Yes. I mean, 7 has...
Holy shit.
7 has so much going for it. I mean, good story. Admittedly, some of it's lost in translation. But still, even with the lost in translation bits, it's still phenomenal.
Wonderful story.
Excellent soundtrack.
Sephiroth is the most unique bad guy that we'd seen yet. I mean, Kefka was a crazy bad guy.
Yeah, but Sephiroth, we actually felt why he was the way he was. We actually had some backstory into his motives. It wasn't just pure insanity. He had an agenda to fulfill, not just his own insane whims.
The world was really cool in FF7. They did go for a different kind of art feel. The first 6 games was Amano, right?
Yes.
Doing the art. And FF7, we brought in the other dude.
Yeah?
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts guy. I just forgot his name.
Nomura,
yeah, that's right. To do the art. And so
just gotta let it sink in.
So
there.
FF7, like, it's a completely different game from
it doesn't really feel that different, but the art style is definitely way off compared to the others. But I mean, the battle system's there, the materia system's phenomenal.
Yeah. It really went into it didn't have the job system, but like it was still one of those systems that you could just do basically whatever you wanted.
Yeah, I could make Cloud the healer, and
right.
It'd be a bad idea, but you could still play the game. And, depending on what person has the spells on them, they lose certain stats, gain certain stats. So if I want Cloud to just be, loose cannon, I just give him all the materia that ups his damage and make sure the ones that lower it are on somebody else, kind of a thing. So there was a lot of customization with that. And also I don't know, I think the story is pretty solid in the game.
Yeah. Story is amazingly solid. I love the story.
I think the soundtrack, I know you like 6's soundtrack more, but I still think 7's is better. It's just so epic. There's so many good pieces to it. I mean, there's a lot of extra stuff to do. The extra stuff doesn't really suck. I mean, it's a lot of fun to do, unlike some of the later ones, like 10, where the extra quests are like trying to peel fucking fingernails off.
Okay, yeah.
But, a lot of replay value. The soundtrack's great, and I don't know. I think the main bad guy thing is the reason why I put 7 above 6, though. Mm-hmm. Just the power of the main bad guy. They were both pussies in the end. Admittedly, I will say I trashed them both, but it's just the feel of it. They feel real. It's the reason why I love
of course.
Shows like Game of Thrones, because they're bad guys, but you can see why they're bad guys. It's like, well, yeah, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and my people.
And of course, FF7 is the Final Fantasy that, although FF6 did pretty well, FF7 sold 10 million copies and became the RPG.
Oh yeah, it was the big boy.
Yeah, he's the big boy.
Made the PlayStation also.
Yeah,
I'm sure Nintendo was extra pissed about that too. They're like, oh come on, the one you guys do on PlayStation makes it dominate. The fuck.
Yeah, it's the biggest game under Gran Turismo on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
That's pretty spectacular, and it was basically the mold for the next two games in the series. FF8, it tried to be another FF7. I mean, a lot of people love FF8 mostly because I think of its love story.
Yeah.
Which you have problems with, but I think I agree with with one of our listeners' name is Maindrum, who's played.
Believe what you want to, whatever it takes to make you happy.
Haven't used that one in a while.
It's more like the player falls in love with Renoa, and so
that's good because Squall doesn't until the last 10 minutes.
Does it seem that way?
Yeah, he's a dickhole until the very end.
That's true. He is kind of a douche.
All right, so
there's a lot of cool things in FF8 though, like the imagery with the sorceress stuff, and I don't know. Like FF8's kind of a mixed bag. A lot of people love it though, and I can see why. It did have kind of a broken battle system. It felt like the game was a little rushed, maybe, but its cutscenes were incredible.
Yeah, the cutscenes in these games just get better and better as time goes on, and 8 was definitely no exception to that. They're phenomenal in comparison to 7, which was a year and a half. Mm-hmm. They did a lot of work in that time for less money, but admittedly 7 they had to build the foundation, see what they could do. The modeling was just spectacular in 8. The characters looked kind of real. Admittedly, there were times in 8 where it was harder to tell if someone was standing there or not, as opposed to 7, but that's just because 7, like, okay, Lego equals person.
Yeah.
In 8, it's like, okay, I can't tell if there's a person there, if that's just a fucking banister. Like, I honestly ran into that where I'm like, where is this guy? This guy is supposed to be here.
Is it like, the one, like, Renoa's father standing to the side?
Yes, I think so. And I'm like, oh my god,
that got me stuck in the game. If you listen to the FF8 episode, I think I talk about my original playthrough of FF8, or it wasn't playthrough, it was play until I couldn't see the dude that I was supposed to talk to. Oh man, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's fucked up, but it had some great cutscenes, especially like we were saying the Quistis on the beach.
The opening cutscene is amazing.
Yeah, the opening cutscene, the opening song.
You're right, Quistis on the beach with the giant spider coming through.
I was like, oh.
It's spectacle-wise, FF8 does pretty well.
I think the story is pretty...
Broken battle system, kind of if you think about it for more than 10 minutes, then the story starts to fall apart.
Yeah, it's got like meteor-sized holes in it. But, and the broken battle system can be kind of refreshing just because it's awesome to be able to shatter it on its core level. Like, I think I finished at like level 18 to 20s, which was more leveled up than you. But my guys were doing max damage every time. I mean, I had all the Ultimas thrown onto me and had all the summons except for Doom Train. I never did the Doom Train quest. I regret that. But
I remember that one being kind of...
It's kind of long. There's like a bunch of different things you have to do.
Big, but
I don't know. There was a lot of cool stuff. And then, I don't know, this is where...
There's a lot of cool stuff with 8, despite us bagging it over.
Yeah, I think the music is a giant step down. And I feel like the story is too.
People disagree with you. I agree with you, but so many people disagree.
Sorcerer's theme was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always good pieces in the games, but
and the
I do
opening
feel like,
themes.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best in the series. But
yeah, I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just kind of lackluster. There was a lot of weird moments where you'd like, a cutscene would end and like a guard would just say like, oh man, it would like show you what the guard was thinking. And I'm like, yeah, that's really weird. Like, I don't know what that really adds. And then...
So for me and you, up until FF8, the series was kind of going up and up and up in quality.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 and 7, it's kind of a toss-up in my mind.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's tough.
I
It's
choose
really close.
6 over 7 in my ranking, but 7's great. But yeah, FF8 is kind of the...
Yeah, it's a downhill.
There's always going to be
slide.
a downhill, and ever since FF7, I think it's kind of been up and down throughout the series.
You mean 8?
Yeah, I mean 8.
Okay, so it's kind of
8 was the down, and then 9 was the up. I think.
I think 9 was a great step forward. I mean, it's kind of odd to think that 9 came after 8, and that's another one of the reasons why 8 bugs me. Is it does feel kind of natural to come after 7, but not really. Like, it's just kind of like a sidestep almost. Instead of going forward, you just went off to the left.
I think both FF8 and FF9 have very unique art styles.
Oh yeah, they're very different.
FF9's art style is a little closer to FF7's, and so it would make sense that 9 would come before 8.
Yeah, that kind of feels that way.
As it looks.
Right, and that's one of the big big problems.
9 is a polished game.
Oh yeah, one of the problems I had with it the first time I tried to play was the art style, because it just bugs me. Like it did anyway. You got this fat queen, this giant creature, only person in the world that looks like that, by the way, which still shits me off to this day.
Well, Quinn.
I don't even understand what race she is. But
she's a Quinn race.
I don't know about that. Her tongue doesn't stick out nearly as far.
No, it doesn't.
But 9 had some phenomenal things to it. I mean, you've got an excellent soundtrack. We definitely jump back up. The main theme is amazing. It's also one of my favorite pieces in the whole series. Just the one that plays on the menu. And you've got a great story. I think a stronger love story, at least I liked the one between Steiner and Beatrix quite a bit.
Okay.
And Beatrix, holy shit, dude. Amazing. I don't know what it is about that.
As far as disproportional character models are concerned.
I don't know what it's
the hair, dude.
I think it's the eye patch.
It's the hair with the eye patch.
I want the eye patch. I want to see what's under there. There's only one way I can see what's under the eye patch. Got to get everything else taken off first.
Oh, God.
It's all coming back. No, but 9's... It kind of plays off of 6 in a lot of ways with gameplay. I mean, we've got these items instead of summons where you will learn abilities by having items equipped. And it kind of gives you an incentive to...
Yeah, some people might not have caught on to the system as others, but...
well, that's okay, I guess. But no, I caught on pretty early because I read the tutorial that it makes you read. But anyway...
Fuck tutorials.
The items in this game, you get equipment, and after you use them for a certain amount of time, you learn abilities for your characters. So there were many times where I would just keep using the crappier weapon to get the ability, because I'm like, oh, that ability's sweet. I can resist fire by a lot, and this guy's a fucking fire-breathing hell demon. So let's get that equipped, and I don't know, that was a lot of fun. That also gave a certain edge of challenge to it, because I'm like, hey, I could go through and just annihilate the stuff with my better weapon, or I could keep the crappier stuff and learn the abilities first and then, transition. And I don't know, I thought that was a really cool element of 9's battle system for me.
The imagery in 9, like the tree, the Ifa tree, and the cutscenes with Vivi and the black mages, whatever their names are. The Black Waltz, that's it. Man... Like, visually, it's also an astounding game. I mean, once you get past kind of the disproportional characters.
Yeah, the trauma of the beginning part. You're just like, oh, what is that guy wearing?
This is nothing like FF8.
He's got a pot on his head. What the fuck?
But yeah, the gameplay, as I said earlier on in this podcast, very even. Like my leveling with where I was in the game, with the challenge of the bosses, it all seemed right. Where it was challenging enough that I was trying to do the next thing, but it wasn't so bullshit that I was quitting.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we were able to play it in a month is because it's a balanced game. I mean, obviously we didn't do the side quest, which we've gotten a lot of flack for, and I am kind of upset at myself for not doing it, but
yeah, once again, there are only like 2 side quests though, so it did seem it was kind of a one-off as far as like extra shit you can do, because there's a lot of extra shit you can do in 8. There's a lot of stuff you can do in 7 and 6 and 5.
True.
But 9, only 2 huge side quests apparently, but still only 2 side quests.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of an odd thing, but
neither of which we did.
No, we skipped it for various reasons.
So, yeah.
And I don't know. This game, I felt like it was a fun element of the party diversity. I thought was really cool, and it also kind of shunned certain characters. Like, what was the dude with the red hair? Do you remember what that guy's name is?
Amaranth.
Amaranth. Yeah, that's right. I didn't use him like hardly ever. And the reason behind that is because he's kind of a thief character, and I mean, I already got a thief. Why use Amaranth? Admittedly, he does become pretty damaging later on, but I thought it was a lot of fun that the boss fights, you had the ability to steal X amount of items, and they were just awesome stuff. There was amazing items that you would steal off of bosses.
Your main character
is a thief. Yeah, I thought that was cool that they played.
It's a very unusual thing in the game.
Well,
in the games as a whole.
So far, yeah, but it starts to become pretty common. Or at least one other time. And I thought that was a lot of fun that it added that little element where your character felt even more real because he was a thief and you were stealing from the bosses that you're fighting. You're jacking all their stuff. I mean, admittedly, you could just scavenge their dead bodies for gold coins or what have you after they're deceased, but I don't know, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, and FF9 also brought in, that was the other team. Because with FF6, there was kind of like the Ito team and what is it? Kazushige? What is his name?
Oh, Amaranth was a bounty hunter. Someone on the Twitch just said that. It's true, but he had a lot of thief-like abilities like steal and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, you were talking about the different teams.
Yeah, the 2 different teams. So there was basically the FF7 team and there was the FF9 team, right? And the FF7 team did FF8. And then the FF7 team also did FF10, and the FF9 team decided to do FF12. And so, like, those 2 teams kind of, like...
And you can see
you know, like, what kind of Final Fantasy fan you are based on those games.
Yeah, 6, 9, and 12,
like, do you like the Ito stuff, or do you like the FF7 stuff? I forgot the fucking name. We did a spotlight on him, too, and I can't remember his name all of a sudden. The director of FF10 and 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And 6. Or co-director of 6. Anyway, so that's kind of an interesting thing. It's like
Nojima? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think it's Nojima.
Kazushige Nojima?
Yeah. Nojima. So the Nojima team versus the Ito team.
Oh, it's tough, dude. I might have to go.
Because like the Nojima team, I think that's the dude's name. The Nojima team is like the really story-driven, not that the Ito team doesn't have story-driven stuff, but the gameplay always kind of lacks because they want more story. There's always a shitload of cutscenes. It's always a little bit more on the romantic end, and it's more on the anime end. And then we have the Ito team, and the Ito team is very... let's do it sort of like old style RPG more. I mean, they both have very similarities, and their story stuff is a little less melodramatic in many ways, and it's a lot more gameplay centered.
Yes.
So, it's, what kind of
although
FF fan you are.
Even, which one are you then?
I'm probably a Nojima guy.
Bastard.
I know you're an Ito guy.
It's all about that 12, baby.
Not that, they both have fantastic games.
And it's awesome. But I still, even with that being said, I still feel like 9...
Kitase!
Yes, Kitase. Yeah,
not Nojima.
Right. Nojima is...
He's a different guy.
Yes.
We also did a spotlight.
Sorry, guys. Jesus. Sorry.
Kitase. Are you a Kitase or an Ito? There you go.
Yeah. But I don't know, before we get sidetracked by the truth being given to us by Jake, I still see 9 leading into 10. I mean, the style of it was obviously different, but I don't know. The one thing that really started making me feel like 10 was coming was the treasure chest. And I know this is a trivial thing, but this is something that, we've had in Final Fantasy before, some sort of treasure that you'd find.
FF8 had no treasure chest.
Yeah, that's why it's a black sheep, the treasure chest.
That's it. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, 13's not anymore.
It still had it had like draw points and shit, but
yeah, but I don't know. The 9, it just kind of felt like 10 was the natural predecessor, except for the battle system in 10. It was quite different in a lot of ways. I mean, we've got a semi-fast one in 7. We got an uber-fast one in 8.
They were making up for 9's very slow battle
9's
system.
was a crawl. Even with the added speed, I know a lot of people have said, guys, you could turn up the speed. We did turn up the fucking
it's too
speed.
Slow.
It's still uber slow. But 10, holy shit, we're talking fast as you want it, baby. It is amazing.
It's not only fast, but it's also like you can do whatever you want. You can build up your characters in any way you want.
Right. I mean, it's kind of the best of both worlds. You've got Final Fantasy 4, where it's, you've got a certain path.
Right.
You got a certain path you should do with a character, and the game guides you in that direction. But then it turns into a Final Fantasy 5 later on when you start getting the unlock spheres, and you can go wherever you want. And once you get Titus into Auron's section of the sphere grid and Auron into Titus's, there's nothing that's going to stop you. Like, that's just sick. That's when you start becoming god tier.
But you can really do just anything.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. So it's like, best of the job system and best of the key making you do what the game tells you system.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's
FF12 had something similar, although I think with the license board it's a little convoluted, but
yeah, we'll get into that later.
So,
but I know, I mean, 10 is amazing. I mean, the story was excellent. I think this is the one with the good love story in it, not 8. I think 10's love story is phenomenal.
Yeah, I do actually care about 10's love story. I do have to say once again that 10 is the only game where I've ever cried at the end of a thing, which is ridiculous in my mind. I'm like, you cried at the end of a video game, but it's like, obviously 10's story, voice actor issues aside, 10 stories, like, it's so well done, and it's, to me, just, it works so well that I gotta give it props. It's that with 6 and 7, just story wise, that's Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, 6 is the one that I teared up on, but I won't tell you where.
All right.
It was beautiful. But we're just very emotionally attached to these characters, and there were some problems with James Arnold Taylor's voice acting for Titus. I'm not sure if it's
him.
I doubt it's him. It's the fucking writing and the absurdity of it all. And then there were some weird animation things, like whenever Riku would talk, she would do her little paw.
It's an FF2 or a PS2 issue where early PS2 games are still kind of coming out of the PS1 games. And, and with the PS1 games, they had character loops that were very obvious.
Yes.
And FF10 still had remnants of that.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So, I mean, there were some weird things in there, but the music was also spot on. It was at least on par with Final Fantasy IX's, if not even better, perhaps. I mean, the To Xanarkand theme is also phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great.
And the art is great. I mean, it is pretty anime-esque, and there's a few things about the art that really bug me. I mean, some of the clothing, the belts, but I can move past most of that just because of the epic scope of the story. The stuff with Sin and Jacked and the summons, and it's just a very emotional game, and it's really good. The side quests in it are total shit. I think as
far as voice acted Final Fantasies go, it is the one that has proven what you're supposed to do.
Proven what you're supposed to do?
Like it was the first one to do it, and yet FF12 story is lacking. Even though like they're almost movies now, but yet FF10, the first one, like it used cutscenes in the best way that it could.
I guess I can agree with that.
And they were the best directed and written cutscenes so far.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not English translated, but
I think the voice acting in 10 is probably the worst in the series.
Yeah.
Voice acting wise. That's not that hard. I mean,
not necessarily cutscene direction.
No, it isn't. And you're right. It is a different facet of the style, but
you could argue that FF12's cutscenes are much better in many ways.
I think they are. But 10 is...
But I think effectively, 10 is better.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what the cutscene's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a reward, a thing that you strive to get to, a relaxation point of, oh, yeah, I'm doing shit, you know? This is the cutscene I finally get to. And it's always been a rewarding experience, and I think 10 definitely keeps that in mind with the cutscenes. And the only side quest I really enjoyed in the game was the monster capture one.
Yeah, 10, like 9, was kind of lacking in cutscenes. All the cutscenes were in one spot, basically, of the game. I mean, with the exception of some optional summons you could get and the weapons that you can get.
Oh, you mean side quests?
Yeah, side quests
Not
in FF10.
cutscenes?
Sorry, side
I'm like,
quests.
what? They're all in one spot. What are you talking about? I mean, you could go buy them at the theater.
No,
but...
no. I meant side quests. Sorry.
Yeah, it's, I don't know.
It was mostly the one dude with the monsters.
That was a lot of the time. The time of the quests.
And the gathering. You know what? I take it all back. It's when I was thinking of all the side quests, I was only thinking of that one guy. But yeah, actually, there are quite a few side quests. But you kind of get them all in the same spot and then go off and grab them. It's all in the plains.
Yeah, there's a bunch of it in the plains. The chocobo race. Jesus. That is horrid.
It's not the greatest side quest in the world. But
No, I think 10s are like the worst, dude.
Yeah?
I really do. I think there's not a game that I've played that has worse side quests. But I mean, still a lot of fun, and I still did every bit of it. So
yes, you did. We'll
and
get to your time
yes,
soon,
we
soon.
will. And that's
speaking of a lot of time, FF11.
this is a big time sink.
They tried to bring in something new to the series. And
No.
nothing wrong with that.
What they tried to do was revamp 1 and 3 and throw it into a giant world where you play with your friends, which to me sounds like it's like an eargasm when I think about it. Like,
Okay,
oh yeah,
all right.
multiplayer 1, that'd be way better. Turns out it is better, but not way better necessarily. So the game starts you out and it just throws you into this world, and
It says "fuck you."
yeah, it's like, hey, go
Kicks
talk
your
to this
ass.
guy, and then
Well, it doesn't even tell you to. Like kind of tells. It depends on the cutscene that you get at the beginning.
I think it does mention to go talk to one of the gate guards to start a quest.
But the controls are really convoluted.
Yeah, like
The gameplay is super slow.
Well, the tough part about going from 10 to 11 is by the end of 10, we're Final Fantasy experts. Like, we're pretty good at the games. We know what we're doing, and then we get into 11.
I felt that way at the end of 7. I was like, the Final Fantasy is now my job. Like, I understand.
You get it.
Yeah, I get it.
No, I felt that way the whole time too, but this time, this game like sucked all that out the window, just like, okay, you don't know what you're doing
learning
at all.
curve on FF11 is it's so bad for the new player.
Oh yeah.
And if you are a person with like very little time, FF11 is
Not for you.
Not the game for you. Just the huge. I mean, in many ways, it's a cool idea that it's it's a Final Fantasy world, and it's huge, and you can do many, many things in it.
Yes. It brings back the job system from 5.
It does bring back the job system. At a certain point, you can switch jobs.
Yes.
all that you want.
Pain in the ass, but you can.
So you have so many choices that it becomes too much, and of course the place it's too
massive.
big. It's too big.
And
of
I
a
mean,
game.
it's for us. It was dwarfed in size because we had these teleport crystals and then these little books that we would use to teleport throughout the world.
That's true. When the game first started out, and for many years, the only people who could teleport were the white mages.
Yeah, and it's not even in that many areas. It's only those.
It's only the crags.
Yeah, the crags, and that's nuts.
And he still
dude.
had to do shit to get the crags to work. So
yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, either that or you breed a chocobo, which takes an actual month to do.
yeah.
And you know what? If I was playing it back then, I would have fucking done it. I would have been like, I'm going to cut my losses here, and I'm going to breed this fucking bird.
It's true. But after FF10 was such a huge success, it's odd that they decided to not only make an online Final Fantasy game that is very difficult and very huge and isn't story driven like the previous 4 games before it.
Yeah.
Or even more than that, for 6, 7 games before it. They numbered it. They numbered that Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. I mean, we've we've discussed this a few times. It's not right to me. Like, it feels odd to number it Final Fantasy 11. They could have called it Final Fantasy Online.
Right.
Now, admittedly, the problem with that is now we have 14. What would they call Final Fantasy 14? Final Fantasy Online 2?
Yeah, they would. They would call it Final Fantasy Online 2.
That's retarded.
I don't think it's that retarded, but...
But by numbering it, we then had to play it, which I'm honestly glad that we played it. It was...
The good aspect of that game is that you need other people, and so it's a very social game.
Oh yeah, which is a weird thing among video games as a whole, is to have a social game. I mean...
And after having played 10 Final Fantasy games in a row, very lonely...
Yes, there were a few times where we would play... I'd come over and like grind out the spheres in 10.
Yeah.
But rarely we would get together and play.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was a refreshing break, and
was. I'm
glad we are going to return to it at some point in the future.
But story-wise, very weak. Gameplay-wise, it has issues.
Yeah,
and it's a very difficult game. I mean, along with FF3 in my mind, and the final boss in FF5, as far as like shit that you have to do to go on in the story.
It's nuts.
It is. The difficulty is insane in FF11.
No, it is.
It is absolutely insane.
And there's many hours of me being...
Yeah, you'll just be you'll be in an area in which you are the correct level to be in that area. And it, like, you fight more than 2 guys come after you.
You'll die.
You're fucked.
Yeah, which is nuts, but... Another thing 11 did that hadn't been done in the series thus far, at least I can't think of a time where it had, where you don't get any experience for killing stuff. Like, there comes a point where you're so high leveled that you don't get a single point of XP.
For the low level guys?
Yeah, which is it's really odd to me. Like, you'd think you'd still get something out of it, but I don't know. One of the 11 I approached methodically at the end because you have cross-class abilities that you can carry over from your main class. You get half of your secondary class's abilities to carry through. And so we figured out the places to level up with Benjamin and the guys, and we're like, all right, this is where we're going to go, and then we're going to go here to level up for now, and then we're going to do some story, and then we're going to go level up some more. When I leveled up that secondary character, that white mage of mine, I just blew through it. It took me like no time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once you kind of get the hang of it, you can rock it, but it is a hard curve.
I can't remember the number that we came up with, and it might be in the FF11 review episodes.
The mini.
The learning curve, I think, was like, for me, I didn't feel like I got the game until like 18 hours in.
Yeah.
Which is a full-length Final Fantasy game in the originals.
Yeah, unless you play like me.
Yeah, unless you play like you.
Slow as fuck.
So, like, that's just sick.
No,
it's just sick.
That's a big curve. And I honestly, there was a point in 11 that I was like going to quit. Like, I was going to be like, I'm done, dude. I don't want to do this anymore. And it was the very beginning. I just felt so overwhelmed with the world.
Overwhelmed's the right word.
Just the lack of knowing where to go and all sorts of stuff. But
yeah, and 10 held your hand too. So it's like coming right out of FF10. So like,
yeah, I was like a coddled
There was no
creature.
Bigger difference between 2 games in the series, I think, that came after one another than FF10 and FF11. No bigger difference in the series. And FF11 stepped down in so many ways. Not that it's the worst Final Fantasy game in the series. There's good aspects to it, but
I would definitely recommend playing it, guys.
And that's why I say that FF11 is the true black sheep, and that's fucking series.
Yeah, I guess. It still feels like 1 through 3. It feels like 1 a lot. Don't know where to go. Trapped in a big thing.
Yeah. If FF11 were FF2, like,
it would be probably
many years later. Oh. They'd be like, oh yeah, this is right.
No, yeah. Fuck, I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know what you were going to say.
I don't know. It was rewarding. Oh, if you're going to play it, guys, make sure you get a group together.
Yeah.
Get like 3 or 4 people to play it with you, and then you'll have a blast. It'll be a lot of fun.
Get up to rank 10, and then play with us when we go back to these.
Or that.
Expansions.
We will be hitting that up sooner than you think.
Yeah, sooner than I want.
Yeah, you don't want to start paying for Final Fantasy again.
You know what? Actually, when we were playing 14, I was kind of missing 11, many aspects.
Well, I'm sure Baindrum is your best friend then, because he was like, oh, this game.
Yeah.
So easy.
So next came FF12, which I think was kind of like an in-betweener for FF11 and FF10.
Yeah.
Because it took a lot of the good aspects of FF11, the vastness, although not too vast, I'd say. At one point, I thought FF12 was too big of a game, but
Before you played it again.
But now I kind of think that FF12 is actually a good size of a game. It's big, but it's not too big to handle. Like,
wow, you sound like such a slut. Nothing's too big for Joe to handle. No, I feel you though. I mean, 11. I thought 12 was massive
but
too.
then it tried with its story stuff. With like FF10 had the cutscenes that we're used to in the last the 4 games before 11, and its hunts and stuff like that. It really made you explore. It's FF12.
No, I think 12's obviously I think it's a fantastic game.
It took a lot of the stuff. It's almost as if FF11 were a single player game, it'd be
FF12.
FF12, only it'd, not be quite as good as FF12.
No, yeah, there was a lot of fun stuff in 12. I mean, it kind of goes back to the olden days of light story spanning across a great amount of time, even greater in 12 because it's a long game unless you're some freak that speed runs it in like 8 hours. I saw one time. It's fucking repulsing, but I can't even fathom that, so I'm not going to try. But step down on the music. I mean, this is when we lost Uematsu. I mean, we lost him for most of 11. He only did a couple tracks. And 12 was just some completely different composer. Admittedly, there were some tracks that I still like. I mean, but most of it was just kind of atmospheric in a lot of ways that 14 is, just not quite as solid story, or not story-wise, the soundtrack goes. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun with it because, I mean, it took a very old school approach to the battles. You have classes that it starts you out with, so almost like 10. You can trade it to any class you want, which is like most of the other games. You can trade your weapons out. Fran starts with a bow. You can give her a sword, which I usually did. And you can... I think it's really cool. I know you bag on the license board a lot, but I actually really like it.
I think it's just too much. If it were a slightly simpler system, I would have liked it more.
What I really like about it is you get the standard leveling up that you had in, the old school Final Fantasies, where when you level up, your strength increases, your speed increases, everything goes up. And in 12, you level up, everything goes up, and then you have this other system, this license board that you get LP license points for killing each enemy, and you can then upgrade your character even further. And since I've played this game, this is the third time I played it, going through this time, I knew where shit was, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get the 500 HP one, I'm going to get the 250 HP, and I had all of that lined up, all the strength, all the uber stat boosts, and I barely ever died.
Yeah, well,
I think it's legit. I think it's cool. I mean, admittedly, I know it's not as good as 10s, but 10s, that was the only leveling system you had in place. It was just the sphere grid. There was no leveling and then the sphere grid.
Right.
But the sphere grid was, if there was, it would just be ridiculously OP.
With 11, though, it also had the no experience with the little guys.
Yes.
I'm not really that big of a fan of.
You still got license points, though, and I know Caleb Craig, and you might have done this too, where you go grind out license points to up your stats. So there's still a purpose to the lower enemies. You didn't have to?
Something I wish that it did take over from 11 was that if you were way above level-wise than the people around you, than the creatures around you, then the creatures would not go after you. But in FF12, they go after you anyway. So if you're trying to get from point A to point B, and yet every fucking wolf in the world is going after you.
Right.
And so you have to take that, 3 seconds to kill the wolf and then keep going.
Well, you could just keep fleeing. I mean, if you're that much higher of a level, they won't do any damage to you. That's one thing that
There's a wonderful cheat in FF12 that I used up.
Oh, yeah. The
nice.
Neglamur.
Yeah.
One of the rare game in Final Fantasy XII summons little minions to do his bidding, and you can set up your gambits in such a way that you will just kill them, keep casting haste on Neglamur, keep him, feeding you.
Yeah, come on, let's keep doing the summoning.
And you can just dominate.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it added a lot of time to your play.
And I liked the first time I played FF12, and I want to say this to people who maybe played FF12 back in 06 and decided that it wasn't like Final Fantasy, and so they don't want to play it ever again. replay wise, it was a much better game the second time around, because I think, I accepted it more the second time around, because the first time I was comparing it as a Final Fantasy game, but as a game by itself, FF12 I think is a very, very solid, awesome game.
Yeah, and I think it does have a place in the series.
Yeah.
And I think people that say it doesn't haven't played anything before 7, or they would shut the fuck up.
Or they haven't played 11.
Or 11, yeah. I don't know. I still feel like it felt like the original few, where it's really wide open.
But it is one of those games where a lot of people hate it and a lot of people love it. And we got 13 right after that.
Yep.
13, of course, was the game that it's kind of my generation. So I'm a younger generation Final Fantasy fan. And so 13 was the one that I went to the midnight release of.
Yeah, and 12 was mine. Not that I'm much older than Joe.
With the PS3.
I just had money.
And 13, I remember it being the commercials for it. It was the most gorgeous game, ever. It was just a beautiful, beautiful cutscenes, but lacking in many respects.
Yeah.
Story wise, I think some things work with it, but it does get a little bit soap opera-y. So it tried to do what 10 did, but it kind of
it failed.
Went too far.
Yeah.
Got a little soap opera-y. A lot of things for a lot of people, the lore of the game was hard to understand within a storytelling context. It wasn't well explained, although it was explained, as I will continually argue. Some things didn't seem to make sense, and I think story-wise, FF13 gets a lot of flack. And the problem with that is, even though FF12 story isn't that great either, I mean, it had some great moments as well, FF12 only had 5 hours of cutscenes.
Yeah.
FF13 took, I think it had 8 hours of cutscenes, and most of those cutscenes were in the first 20 hours of the game.
Yeah.
And so it felt like it was so story-heavy, but yet
it was lacking
because the story had problems that was going to affect your view on the game, and thus you wouldn't let it open up for Grand Pulse, which is basically they were copying FF10. It's almost like the Giza Plains, right? Is it the Giza Plains?
No, Giza Plains is in 10 or 12.
Oh, okay, sorry, just the plains in FF10. Yeah. So, and gameplay wise, I think it's actually pretty great.
Yeah, I know that's your favorite battle system in the whole series, and I still think mine's 12. I like the open map. I like seeing the enemies out there, being able to run.
Calm Lands, someone put in the Twitch chat. Thank you. I'm having a lot of brain farts today.
Yeah, it's a tumor.
Well, it's the amount of games that we're going through.
Well, I don't know. With 13, the story does kind of make sense at the end. When you really look at it, or when you look at Gabranth's post on our forums, he explains it
the whole thing
really well, and it's okay. I still think it's one of the weaker of the most recent ones. I mean, 12's had a lot of stuff going on, politically, and that kind of was a
lot of people couldn't take 12's language, which we didn't talk about. It went for an old English style.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I didn't have a problem with that at all.
Royalty in the game, which was about half the cutscenes. And so a lot of people, a lot of younger players, I would think, might have problems following.
Yeah, and I mean, I know 12 might have less hours of cutscenes, but I think they might have been more impactful. 13, just every time you get to a new spot, it's cutscene.
There's some problems.
You get to another one, it does cutscene. You get to another one, it does the cutscene, and then the crappy little emotional
But
noise.
For players, I think 13 was an extremely hyped up game. And here's the thing, with the Super NES, the PlayStation, and the PlayStation 2. The Final Fantasies that came out in the early days of those, so the first Final Fantasy on each system was always a huge Final Fantasy. So that would usually be the best Final Fantasy on the system, was the first one that came out.
Yeah.
And with Final Fantasy 13 being the PlayStation 3 game that it was, I think If it were Final Fantasy 14, we had a different one being Final Fantasy 13. I think it would have been seen in a less, this is such a letdown way.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were disappointed with 12 as well, but I think if 12 were the one on PS3, it would have been better than 13. I think it would have been more well received. And it was critically more well received.
And 13 was still well received.
Yeah, no,
it's been mostly like a backlash thing. Like there was initial, oh yay, and then kind of no.
Well, once they finally got through the first like 10 hours, and they're like, oh.
Well, yeah, it was well reviewed. Of course, people say that they have other things in mind when they review games, as far as like trying to get stuff sold. Like
there's an agenda for it. If it's
there is an agenda,
Informer.
but you know,
can't tell me that every fucking Call of Duty is a 9.75 or above. That's horseshit. Multiplayer wise, they might be, but as a whole, not a chance. But you know, and I don't know. 13 was still a lot of fun. The battle system's fantastic. It's really fast. It's really customizable. You got to figure shit out. I died to normal enemies. That didn't happen before. I died in 12 like 4 times. You know how many times it took me to get 4 game overs in 13? Like fucking no time. Surprised I didn't die on the menu screen, for God's sake.
So do you think 13 is more difficult than 11 or 3? Which I place as my most difficult games. I mean, FF5's final boss aside.
I would say Final Fantasy 13 might be one of the hardest ones.
Yeah, but it does give you the retry option.
It does give you the retry option, so you don't have to go load your game up and go back to your previous save, which is makes it easy, but it's an instant gratification thing that you would otherwise think that, wow, this game is disgusting.
That battle system, the speed of it is just...
Yeah, it is, and I mean, there's problems with it too, though. I mean, the fact that people group together and take AoE attacks, like my Ravager sits right next to my Sentinel, and they just take it up the asshole when they do these big AoE attacks, which I know they fix in 13 too, from what I've heard. So I'm glad, but there's still some hit and miss stuff.
I've heard they made the paradigm system even faster in FF13 too. So
I'm pumped for that, dude. Yeah, I want fast as fuck. Like that's why we love 10's system so much, because it's just like. And that's what made 8 so amazing too. Is like, well, that's
what made 9 difficult.
Yeah, like it just felt
somewhat like it's a great game, but it's like, oh, after playing FF8's a really fast system, it's like,
yeah, I'm like, whoa,
let me hit.
Yeah.
Miss.
Fuck. After all that time,
God damn it. Yeah. And a weird thing, of course, originally Square's Final Fantasy 14, a gigantic failure.
Oh yeah,
so after 13's disappointment to fans, although not really to critics, FF14 was a disappointment to
everybody, everyone in the world. There were still people that played it, obviously, because they love RPGs, JRPGs, MMO RPGs, but this game was basically 11 again.
Yeah,
and 11
from what we've heard.
And 11 had its place at the time, but 11 does not have its place anymore necessarily. The style of it, the brutal, unforgiving-esque of Final Fantasy 11 can't exist in a world where World of Warcraft has dominated the scene.
That's true.
And 14...
So they had to fire a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, they did some huge restructuring of their company,
and they gave out an apology for their game, and then they made A Realm Reborn.
Yes, which is way better.
Which is our 14 replacement.
Yes, and then really clever.
It's their 14 replacement.
I think it's a really clever name too, A Realm Reborn. Like they come out of the ashes, and it's legit.
So FF14, A Realm Reborn. I think we placed it lower than we thought we were going to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got a lot of hype from a lot of the listeners who just love 14, and I can see why. And I honestly, when I look
at an MMO, it's pretty fun.
No, it's great. Yeah.
As far as my small MMO experience is concerned.
Yeah. Joe's masterful opinion on the matter. But no, and I put more time into this than I have any of the others by far. Mm-hmm. Okay, by far. And there's a reason for that. It's because it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of things to do. I was always, if I was waiting on Joe to catch up or in side quests, I can be like, well, I can just level up this other class, which is way easier in 14 than it is in 11. In 11, you had to go back to your Mog house, which is basically where you keep all your shit, and trade your class over. In 14, you just have to equip a weapon that's specific to that job class, and you will then take over your stats will then change to that job class's stats for whatever level you happen to have it at.
Yeah.
And you can create little sets, so you can just instantly change into your best gear. I could be leveling up my archer, and you guys get readied up for a dungeon, and I just press a couple buttons, and I'm in my black mage gear, and 50 jillion times more powerful than I was 2 seconds ago. And it was a great step up in as far as the multiplayer RPG goes for the Final Fantasy series.
And it only has one before it, so it's
True,
not saying much. But I mean, as far as where the game started, it's a huge step up.
Yeah.
I personally think that they should have just taken more time on the original FF14 instead of rushing it. I think it was like a year after FF13 that they released 14.
Oh, yeah.
And for these, ever since the PS2 era,
They've been taking forever.
taking a year to make a game.
That ain't enough for these guys. They don't have to go Blizzard mode on it, but they
They're
need
going
some time.
too soon with FF15, but
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
oh no, it's 10 years since the announcement of FF Versus 13.
True.
So it is Blizzard mode. That is Diablo 3 territory. That's
Hopefully it's
sick.
as good as Diablo 3.
That's sick.
We'll see.
No, but like, I think with FF14 especially, I think a lot of Final Fantasy fans like it because it has a lot of Final Fantasy imagery in it.
Oh, yeah.
It does try to be very story driven, although I have problems with its storytelling as far as like cutscene direction, which is about as slow as fuck.
Yeah.
Which is a major problem.
There's a
for
lot
me.
of fat that could be trimmed, as we discussed.
The gameplay is very good gameplay. It doesn't really look like anything else in the series
no,
before
it's
it.
outside of the
It
realm,
has, of course, Final Fantasy things in it, but it's a new system, and I really like the gameplay in 14. Once there is gameplay, the multiplayer aspect, of course, I wish it were pushing for more multiplaying than it does. It's almost like a single player MMO that we, of course, talked about in our 14 review.
But the dungeons made up for that, I think, in some ways.
But
That's what everyone's doing now after they finish the story.
Yeah,
They're going on raids and dungeons
and
with everybody.
a lot of people love 14, so I wouldn't just take our opinion for it. The thing with 14 is, I think, as far as like the 13 games that came before it, it's kind of a downer.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much of a downer as 11 was a downer, but I think I am excited for 15.
Yeah, no, and I still really like 14.
And it's an odd place to end our series, don't you think?
Kinda. It doesn't feel quite like the others, but I mean, it does have more callbacks, I'd say, than even Final Fantasy 9, which was just packed full of, oh, remember these awesome things? Well, there they are again. Look at that. 14 had a lot of that too, and I still think it's a really good game. I think it's definitely worth playing, although it's supposed to be an MMO, and there's a lot of stuff as far as the main storyline goes and some of the quests that it's not really that multiplayer, so.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got some lists of like tops here, we got some
our
top
favorite
threes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
3 hardest bosses in the main series. And on my top 3, I did not include side questy stuff.
Okay.
But I saw that you did. So my top 3 hardest bosses: Necron as number 3.
Okay, Final Fantasy 9, final boss. He's rough.
He's a sick motherfucker. I mean, it only took me 2 tries to kill him, but the struggle was palpable.
Oh yeah, I
between
think
me and him, because there are the Final Fantasy bosses in which you've leveled up so much that you're just going to kick their trash, but then Necron has just the moves that take you down to 1 HP. The status effects are sick on that guy. His speed is so much more than your guys' speed.
Oh yeah, he's sick, dude.
And just the overall like horror aspect of it, I think like adds a lot of tension to the final boss battle.
All right.
of
I feel like
Necron.
Necron is kind of a...
It's Necron after Kuja, which makes it even worse.
Oh yeah, Kuja was a pain in the ass. But I think Necron is almost an illusion of difficulty.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I died to him, but I think he seems like he's more difficult than he actually is, just based on the things he does to you. It's almost like 13's final guy, which I died to a bunch of times before I came back, leveled up. The final fight with Bartandalus, and it just seems much harder than it actually is. But he's
maybe
psychotic, though.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I personally,
okay.
like had the most trouble. Shadow Lord in FF11, both iterations of him at the end, at the end of Mission 5 and at the end of Mission 9. Holy shit.
He was rough.
I never killed. I was always dead by the time the party killed him. So that's
fucking Joe.
It's Shadow Lord is just a beast. He has a lot of health that you have to get down, and he does a lot of damage. And then my number one hardest boss in the series, these are all final bosses I have here, X-Death from Final Fantasy V, which I believe would be impossible unless you had something that you could spam.
Some sort of Gil Toss kind of ability.
Either a Gil Toss where you can do max damage over and over and over again, or like I tried the summon route, but you still have to level up your summon all the way.
Yeah, your summoner needs to be packing.
Yeah, and like I could not imagine. Like I had to play X-Death like a million times anyway. Like that's the one I restarted over and over and over and over again to play X-Death. And man,
he was a fuck, dude.
And I had to eventually just like give up and say, okay, I can't use the strategies, any other strategy to kill him. I have to use the Gil Toss.
And see, I worked for the Gil Toss from like as soon as I could, so I had it. But the problem I ran into with X-Death,
you didn't have the mime guy yet.
No, I didn't have
to go
mime.
back and get that.
I never got it.
Oh, you never did?
No, I never got the mime spell.
See, FF5, I did all the side quests for, I think.
That's the only one I didn't do.
Oh, okay.
Was mime, which sucks because that's the one I needed. But because I ran out of fucking Gil, so I was like not doing any damage. Oh god. So mine, my list here is going to be. Do I want to put that in number one? In no particular order.
Okay.
Ruby weapon, or not Ruby? Ruby. In Final Fantasy VII. Now I know Emerald is kind of tougher, but Ruby for me was just ridiculous. I mean, I spent literally like an hour and a half fighting this guy, and I died. I just died. I lost an hour, almost 2 hours of my life fighting him, and basically I equipped counter, all these counter materials, and I would occasionally throw in a limit break, and that's what ended up killing me. It's because he countered my limit break with another move, and I died. And it was just atrocious, man. I'd say him and Emerald are probably a tie, though. I'd throw them both in. The weapons in 7. Okay. They were both repulsing. Emerald just does the insta-kill move, the, curtain of doom, whatever the fuck it's called, and I don't particularly care for that.
Okay.
The second worst boss in the series, I'd probably have to go...
You said no particular order.
True. Okay, fine. And the next one in my list of the trifecta of hell is going to be X-Death as well. I mean, this guy, 4's end boss was tough, no doubt about that, for me especially. And but 5's, nothing could prepare me for the hell that was X-Death when I got to that fucker. Like, the guys around him, yeah, tough, but manageable by, just fine. And then I run into the X-Death fight, and it's just fucking repulsing. He does so much damage so quickly, and there's just no way. So I had to go back out, and I actually grinded for Gil to throw at the fucking guy.
That's right. I remember that.
That's what I was grinding for at the end. I had Gil toss. I just didn't have the fucking Gil to toss.
See, with mime, you just
everyone
mime the damage.
It, yeah.
You don't take money out.
Yeah, so Joe rocked it.
Yeah.
But he was sick, dude, and there's like no... If it wasn't for Gil Toss, that we would have had to have went grinding forever to beat that guy, like just hours and hours on top of our playtime.
Grinded each other like
death. to nothingness, just ground into nothing. And then the last boss I have on here is a side quest boss as well. I'm gonna have to say Yzamat from Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah, I would have if I had put hardest bosses as bosses that were outside of the main thing. I would have put Yzamat on there too.
Yeah, he's sick, dude. He's really easy the first 40 million. Like there's not really a problem with the first bit.
He's a tough boss. You gotta have your shit together as far as like what stuff is set up for your party.
Yeah.
And you got to pattern, and you got to use the map against the fucking thing. And sometimes he'll just do something chaotically,
and just kill you.
Yeah. And he has so much health. It's so sick.
Yeah. And I mean, I had to do the reverse trick for me, basically where I cast reverse on a party member and they heal instead of taking damage. So when he gets into his 10, 11, 12 hit streaks, I'm getting health back. And that was the only way I could survive against him. I know you took a different tactic, and there were certain things that you equipped that you found out like halved damage for certain spells, but it was wrong, dude.
Yeah,
it was the sickest fucking fight ever, and it took me like 4 hours. Like, wasn't it like 4 hours of?
I had 1 hour less than you. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it on the FF12 episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, because your tactic was a little different than mine, but it was still like 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah,
I think yours was around 5. I think
yours might have been
around
4.
But I think there's a comment on one of our forums, I believe. He's talking about like the Isomat doesn't count because he doesn't think any boss should be hours long. I mean, that's just the game makers just fucking with you.
I liked the worm fights in that game.
But isn't every hard boss the game makers fucking with you?
Yeah, this is just I don't know, this is like the Metallica version of the boss fight, the long 7-8 minute song, and then we're used to the Slayer song, the 2-3 minute just anarchy and hell all combined into this tiny little streak. I don't know, 12 did that a lot though with the worm fights. There were a lot of really long battles in that game.
Yeah,
I kind of thought it was satisfying. But
all right,
what other categories we got here?
We got three best side quests.
Ooh, the thing that Joe does not do.
I did the FF5 stuff and
10, some, I guess. All right, what are yours? What are your 3 best?
All right, my third I have on here now. I didn't do all the side quests, obviously, but these are my 3 favorite as we did this playthrough. The Tomb of the Unknown King with FF8. I do believe that is a side quest because all you have to do is go into like one other screen and find the thing with the student number on it.
Yeah,
and you can leave.
Yeah, you can.
But or you can go through the dungeon and like do the switches and stuff like that, and go across the bridge and get the brothers summon. Which I thought, you know what, that is a cool side quest. I think most people do it thinking that it's part of the story, but it's really not. And that's just like it's a decently awesome side quest. So the brothers and the Tomb of the Unknown King. The FF12 hunts I have ranked here as number 2 is just like, I was kind of against the hunts at the beginning, but I actually had a lot of fun. Now that I'm looking back at FF12, a lot of fun doing the hunts in FF12. And the FF5, the Chocobo around the world thing with FF5.
Oh yeah, where you had to go.
That was my first major side quest that I did in the series, and so it was like a little fun memory of doing the FF5.
All right,
Chocobo around the world.
I can agree with that.
Okay. Can you read those?
No, I wrote them down.
Okay.
There's so many good ones that I wanted to not just keep it off of memory. So I also put Final Fantasy XII's hunts, and then also the bestiary as a whole. I liked filling out the entirety of it and my sick need to complete everything in the game. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was just kind of cool seeing different info and like more backstory of the world within this bestiary. And of course, the hunts are phenomenal. I think they're a lot of fun. They're a good side quest, especially if you do them with the story. It's kind of a good way to get some quick cash if you're leveled up enough to face the things. I've got my second one here. It's kind of iffy. I chose the Gold Saucer Arena.
Okay, a blanket.
Yeah, and the reason why I chose this is I just think it's kind of a cool element. I mean, you've got the round after round fighting. You've got the handicap that comes in. You like do this little slot thing and you select and stop it at a certain point. You can get a spell cast on you, or like the removal of your items, removal of magic, etc. I thought that was a lot of fun, and it's also where you get Omni Slash, and Omni Slash is fucking bitchin', so all about that Omni Slash. Now the next one, I don't know. I was kind of...
Doesn't it go along with the other one, the arena?
Not really.
No? Okay.
I mean, you go to the Gold Saucer to do it, but I actually kind of liked the breeding and racing of the Chocobos. Now, I know I complained about it a little bit on the review, which I still feel that way about it in some aspects. I mean, the racing is pretty easy. You just win over and over again. But the capturing and the breeding of the Chocobos, I thought was pretty fun.
Okay.
Even though it was aggravating because I'm like,
it seems way too aggravating to be fun.
Just make it the right one. But it's just like a fun idea. Like the fact that I'm in this game from 1997, and I'm like, playing Chocobo Hitch, basically, and hooking these Chocobos up and creating the ultimate Chocobo.
All right.
Yeah, I thought it was solid.
Chakabaru.
Yeah.
All right.
God.
3 best bad guys. So the baddest of the bad, or the badass of the bad. I don't know. There's a lot of bad guys, like not well. Like not very fleshed out bad guys in many of the early Final Fantasies, especially. I would say FF4 has a disappointing kind of bad guy switcheroo deal. But many people would say Golbez is a really good bad guy. But my top 3 bad guys of the Final Fantasy series, looking back now, we've answered similar questions before, but this is just kind of a capstone sort of thing. My 3 best bad guys, I have Kefka as number 3. Now, I know he is just kind of a psycho, but I actually like the psycho bad guys because they can be, you never know what they're going to do, and they are just sadistic. And Kefka is that. All he wants is power and just to be the only one basically left on the earth.
Yeah.
And so he just kills people and he manipulates people, and it's incredible that they had a bad guy that, many people talk about this, that actually destroyed the world. He doesn't destroy it completely, but he does change the world.
He succeeds in his ploy.
Yeah, and
in the beginning.
That is cool shit. And like the crazy angel demon thing that he becomes at the end. When he becomes the god, that is crazy stuff. I put Kuja. Now,
the man-woman.
I was going back and forth between like Adele's pretty cool, but then Adele doesn't really like do anything later on in FF8, and her function in FF8 isn't that great. And thinking about Sin, I think Sin is, I know it's the thing that the hero's trying to destroy, but Sin as a bad guy wasn't as interesting, I think. There's a lot of stuff behind it, and we'll talk about that in a second, I'm sure. But yeah, Kuja, he's, I don't know, he's kind of psycho, and I didn't really care for him in the FF9 review, but as time has gone on, I've been like, oh yeah, Kuja, that was an interesting dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. He has some internal problems, and Kuja is basically like a small Sephiroth, which is my number 1 bad guy in the series.
Okay.
Just the cutscenes with him, the Oedipus complex, the power that he holds within his world. I just think, Sephiroth's a great bad guy.
Okay.
Great bad guy.
I can side with that. All right, so my top 3 bad guys in the series.
Oh, and killing Aerith, by the way. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry if you haven't played the game. My top 3 are going to be Cid in Final Fantasy 12. I thought this guy was...
Was that Dr. Cid?
Dr. Cid, yeah.
Dr. Cid, okay.
The other Cid guy was funny, but not as awesome as the Cid.
Dr. Cid is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty legit. He's he's like Balthier's counter. He's got all these awesome animations with his giant guns, just like completely unrealistic. And I don't know, he's just a really interesting character to me. The stuff with Vana in him was like, I just thought that was really interesting, and I thought he was a really fun bad guy. Not the baddest of the baddies in that game, but definitely more interesting than Vayne, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
My number 2, I'm going to put Jecht/Sin for Final Fantasy X. I totally agree with his verbal abuse of Tidus. I think that he's just utterly disappointed in what he's produced.
I can't take him seriously with the cry remarks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems
like he's being a child.
It's so cartoony.
Yeah.
It's one of the few bad marks on FF10.
I get it though. He's trying to toughen him up, but
yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of weird. But yeah, no, I liked him and Sin, and I thought the final boss against Jecht was amazing. I thought that was a great boss fight. I slaughtered it this time through, of course, because I was doing 100,000 damage and shit, but I still think it's really powerful. Mm. And I also am going to jump on the Sephiroth bandwagon. I think he's the best bad guy in the series thus far. I think he's got the most backstory. He's the most human-like. There's a reason why he is the way he is, and we get to see that. We get to see his raw power. Admittedly, it's not quite as awesome as we thought when we get to the guy. and just trash him. But
I had some problems on the first. No, actually, I beat him in one go.
Yeah, so did
Never
I.
mind.
I beat 6s and 7s in one go, and 1s.
I was trying to think the first time I played FF7, but no, the first time I played FF7, I killed him one go.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah,
He's never been
it's
tough.
an awesome boss fight.
No, it really is, and I don't know. I just really like his backstory, and his theme is amazing too. And
Yeah.
he's got
All
the
right, so
best sword.
Our last top 3 here that we got. It's our 3 best cutscenes in the series. Something that the Final Fantasy series, ever since like FF4, I think is known for. It's
It's excellent cutscenes.
And especially when they got into the 3D realm with the pre-rendered cutscenes, there's some quite incredible, breathtaking stuff. And in fact, I kind of want to do a top 4 because I feel like something's missing here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a top 4
right.
for these best cutscenes. The FF13 cutscenes with Sarah and Snow, with the fireworks going off.
Oh yeah, the firework cutscene.
As far as like just pure beautiful artistic CGI, I think that's got to be the most beautiful imagery in the entire series almost. I mean, as far as like the cutscenes function, you know, it's not necessarily as powerful as other stuff. But I think just in pure beauty of cinematics, FF13's firework cutscene is just amazing. FF8's opener is my number 3. That is the way to open a game. It's like almost like, you know, 1970s films that like kind of show you little snippets of what's going to happen later on in the movie.
Yeah.
During the, you know, opening titles. Like that's what the FF8 thing is, only it's really cool and it's really epic. I mean, once the game starts, you realize it wasn't that epic after all.
Yeah,
like
they were
the
just
fight
training.
between Cypher and Squall wasn't that like big earth-shattering event that it looks like in the beginning.
Right, it's just heavy foreshadowing.
But I think the FF8 opener is something to be praised. Aerith dying in FF7, of course, huge. Everybody knows it, and it's just incredibly well directed, simple little cutscene that just has huge implications for the game. And it's wonderful. And then my top cutscene in the entire Final Fantasy series, and look, dude, you have some awesome stuff here as well on your top 3, so it is hard to choose. But I put the Yuna sending the first time that you see her sending the souls. I thought that it's beautiful, well directed,
on Kilika.
mysterious, and just wonderful.
All right. I can respect that list. I mean, it's not quite the same as mine, but let's see. I've got down here, I just did a top 3 for it. The ending to Final Fantasy X when Yuna like falls through Titus and he's finally leaving for the...
See, now it's tough. It's tough.
He's finally leaving for the last time, and I don't know, that one was really good. I think it was really well done on all fronts, and had a lot of power to it. And I put in the Black Waltzes falling from the airship with Vivi. I felt like that scene...
Or the Black Mages.
Black Mages, yeah. In Final Fantasy IX had more power in it than Aerith's death scene ever has for me. And I didn't know about Aerith's death scene the first time I got to it.
See, that'd also be in my top 10. I think I might have placed it higher when we were asked this question before, but like it's always tough to choose.
Yeah. And you know, it just has a lot of emotion to it. It's just this, you know, this simple thing, but he just sees all of his friends dying and he was just trying to save them, kind of a thing, and it's just really tragic. And then my, I don't know if this is number 1, they're just kind of random here, but the last one I put down was the opening to Final Fantasy VI with the Magitech armor.
Yeah, going through
the snow, and then the terrorist theme just starts playing. It is pretty
cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's cool shit.
It's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is tough to choose because there are some really good ones that you put down too. I mean, there's... the sorceress thing, I guess it's kind of a battle, but when you're battling all the sorceresses in the time compression.
If FF8 didn't have the annoying theme song in the background, the ending to FF8, that would be a very good cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that theme song really ruins it for me.
What about your favorite 3 musical pieces in the series?
Ooh, top 3? I can list that. That's easy. Xanarkand, Terra's theme, and probably the FF8 Fabula something. I don't know, like the Latin words.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think mine are going to be the 9 intro, Terrace theme, and then to Xanarkand. But I think the Cosmo Canyon in 7 like comes really
Cosmo
close.
Canyon's pretty cool.
And so does the world map theme after when meteors starting to come down. They're like... There's some good stuff.
There's
dude.
a lot of good stuff. I think 13 has some good soundtracks in it as well.
Yeah, the little springs.
No, not that.
I thought that one was okay. It's kind of annoying, but yeah.
Yeah, but the operatic kind of dealio.
Oh yeah, when you're fighting Bartangulus, and
yeah.
then the one remix we got for that episode. Fucking
Okay,
amazing.
listen to the FF13 review episode because we put a remix in there that we were dying when we found
this
it.
is so amazing.
So fucking cool. Yeah, man. Jeez, a great series. We should talk about our finalized rankings for these main series games.
All right, you go
Once
for it.
again, because I didn't actually reiterate on 14 what mine were. My top Final Fantasy going down, FF6, FF10, FF7. I mean, those three are really close anyway. FF9, 5, 12, 13, 8, 4, 14, 11, 2, 3, and 1.
Okay, well, I've got 7, 6, 10, 12, 9, 5, 4, 14, 3, 8, 11.
14,
13, sorry. 8, 11, 2, 3, and then 1.
So I've averaged out our UFF podcast just between me and you. I've averaged out the top 14 main series Final Fantasy games in order, and averaged out FF6 is the best game in the Final Fantasy series between me and you, followed by 7 closely, and then 10. So those top 3 games have always been the same between you and I. Then we got 9, then 12, then 5. 4 and 13 are tied. 14 and 8 are tied. 11, 2, 3, and 1.
All right.
So as far as games that we recommend as a podcast, it's 6, 7, 10, and then on.
Yes, those are the 3 essentials I've said since the beginning, and I still agree with. Those
Yep.
are the ones that you should play if you've never played them.
We both said that since the beginning. And we, of course, many times have recommended what game to play first. I still think FF10 is the game. If you've never played a Final Fantasy before, if one of your friends has never played a Final Fantasy before, give them FF10.
Yeah, I think it's solid. If they can get past the weird voice acting, I think they're golden.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine.
It's a good thing. And then be like, okay, here's FF7, and then here's FF6. And then, of course, they'll be in love with Final Fantasy, and then we'll never stop.
Of course, yeah. How could they?
This is something incredible.
Yeah, so earlier today, I decided to grab all of my save data, my time that I put into the series, just this playthrough, mind you. I've played a few of these games multiple times in the past, and I decided to tally up the amount of hours I've put in to Final Fantasy in the last year and 8 months. And it's sick, dude. Okay, the total amount of hours I have
It's
is
almost 9 months.
1,213 hours and 17 minutes.
I was never able to count up mine. I think I'd be like 200 hours less than you.
I'm going to say you're going to be around 800 or 900. I think it's going to be that
Hours
substantial,
total?
yeah.
Okay. Well, can we go through game by game what you did?
Yeah.
Okay, so it took Schweiss here 21 hours and 27 minutes to beat FF1.
And then I went on to 2, which was 25 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay, where's FF3 on? This is not in order. It's pissing me off. 24 hours and 30 minutes for FF3.
4 took me 26 hours and 11 minutes. Yeah, 3 was really short for me.
So 5 was 22 hours and 55 minutes.
Also short. 6 I did in 28 hours and 43 minutes.
So slowly getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Until 7, which was, you did everything in 7.
Yeah,
as
I
far
did
as
everything
can
in the game.
77 hours and 28 minutes. Pretty good for doing everything in the game.
Yeah, I'm not too upset about that. 8, I took 36 hours and 15 minutes. I did most everything in 8, so much shorter.
Yeah. FF9, 32 hours and 31 minutes. FF10, which one's your FF? Oh, you had two games here in FF10. That's
yeah,
right.
my FF10 total time was... so I went through and did everything except for the I missed a few.
You missed a few books and had to go back.
Yeah, I had to go back. So my first save file where I did everything but the 2 books was 145 hours and 41 minutes. And then I got to home in another 12 hours and 49 minutes.
To get that last book.
Yeah, so that puts my total time at, what is that, 157, 158,
almost
30.
Yeah, 158 something. Jesus, dude.
And 11, this is when a real big jump from 10 to 11 also. When it gets real disgusting.
Yeah, FF11, 3 days.
So 74 hours.
3 days and 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. FF12 was 133 hours and 11 minutes.
Also did everything, well, not quite everything in 12, actually. There's a few weapons that I didn't get.
FF13 is pretty close on the time there. It's about 110 hours and 8 minutes. Yeah, a quick game of FF13.
Yes, and then...
which you platinumed in that time, which is actually pretty good for the platinum according to the times I've looked at.
Yeah, and Final Fantasy 14.
The longest game of all.
Yes, 187 hours of Final Fantasy 14. Now, we went even further than that, so I decided, or Joe and I decided, what would I have made at what I get paid currently at my place of employment for this amount of...
if you remain playing
yeah, if I was paid the same wage to play the Final Fantasy games. And
they can reverse engineer this to figure out your wage.
They could.
Yeah.
If they...
Not much.
If they tallied it all together. Anyway, I would have earned $17,891.75 for playing the games, and that is 151.625 work days, which, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And my playtime, the total amount, comes to 50 days and 12 hours, which is 75 awake days.
So, in other words, if you were to play
16 hours a day,
16 hours of Final Fantasy a day, it would take 75 days to beat the main series like you did.
Yeah, doing everything that I've done. I'm interested to see what yours is, because...
well, mine's going to be less than yours.
Oh,
just around about. I beat most of these games, I think, except for FF3. I think you might have beat faster than I did. But all the rest of the games, I had at least an hour or two less than you on game time, just because I approach the games differently than you do. And then you went off and did extra stuff, which I did not do.
Yeah.
And
you did some in 10. There's some extra in 12.
10, I did a lot of extra stuff, but yeah, once again, I was still I did 80 hours in 10 and not 110.
Yeah, true. Well, 160 almost.
Yeah. So, mine would be substantially less, but still, it'd still be a lot.
Well, I think we should tally it up before next week.
I don't know about that, but
why do you not want to know?
I think this might be a 2-parter. By the way, we're approaching that. We're past the 2-hour mark.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we are. But wow, this is the end to our first season of Ultima Final Fantasy.
Yes.
88 / possibly 89 episodes in. Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, guys, and a very time-consuming one. And
as we've seen, yes.
And we're going to continue. You guys, just as a reminder, you can find us at youtube.com/Ultima Final Fantasy. You can tweet us, mostly Caleb, at UFF Podcast. You can tweet me at Joseph DeGollier. That's D-E-G. That's DEGOLYER. You can go to facebook.com/Ultima Final Fantasy. Yeah, we do check the Facebook regularly, so if you post on there, we'll talk to you. Patreon. You can support us on Patreon, and $1 a month gives you the episodes as soon as we're done mixing them, which is usually about a day early. Twitch.tv/Ultima Final Fantasy. You can see Caleb Schweiss play Final Fantasy Interlude right now, and
for the next
possibly Final Fantasy IV After Years right after that. And then you can go to our website, ultimafinalfantasy.com. and join our forums, please. That's where the conversation's at. That's where you ask questions. That's where you get answers.
Yes, that's true. Well, you get answers from us here. We don't.
From
don't
us
answer
here, but look, people, when you post a question in the forums, people get on it.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty awesome. So please join us there. I do have to tell you guys that there's going to be some website maintenance, and what's going to happen is that all of these other little shows that we've had, the Godzilla podcast, Nude Clan, which is not a little show. I suggest if you're listening to this show, go listen to Nude Clan.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
It's not on iTunes as of yet, but it should be on there very soon as of when this episode comes out. and super sexy swinging fan fiction. It's all going to be on one website. And so we're actually going to take the skeleton of Ultima Final Fantasy. So if you're a registered user on there, you'll be fine. We're going to make that kind of the main site. So the website might shift, but you'll still be able to just click in ultimafinalfantasy.com and it'll take you to
it'll
place.
redirect.
So, just keep going to ultimafinalfantasy.com until it is otherwise changed. But we haven't decided what to call it yet.
Yeah, I mean, because we want our Nude Clan to be our big show, but we can't exactly have a website called nudeclan.com and expect people to be able to go there at work. It's kind of iffy, so we got to think of some kind of a name. But in the meantime, yeah, you guys can just keep still going to Ultima, and we'll announce a better date when it gets a little closer, when we're actually going to have the site downtime. So
I don't think the site will go down, actually.
You don't think so?
No, not Ultima. The other sites will go down, but not Ultima won't.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. It'll probably stay. So you guys will be good.
Yeah, you're good. It's just
Yay.
The site might slightly change its look.
Yeah, it'll get hotter and hotter as it gets older.
The logo at the top is going to change, and then the artwork on the sides will change a little bit. But
all right.
Should be basically the same site with a few, if you like Godzilla and if you like a Nude Clan, there's
and
for you to
us
go there.
reading erotic fan fiction, yeah, win-win. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Anyway, guys, we'll see you next week with a whole new season.
Oh yeah, season 2.
It's coming up.
Until then, you guys, enjoy the grind.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. The show was produced by Joseph DeGollier and Caleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGollier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.